Hi, I'm Rachel and I am the Art Studio Coordinator for the Children's Discovery Museum, and welcome to our first virtual version of our Art Around You Exploring Contemporary Art in the Community program. So welcome. This program is made possible by the MIRZA Art and Culture Grant, which was awarded to the Children's Discovery Museum by the Illinois Prairie Community Foundation, as well as our continued partnership with Illinois State's University Galleries. So during this program, we will be taking a virtual tour of a real-life art exhibit that was featured at the University Galleries and select a work of art to focus on. Together we will break down the artwork and think about it a little more deeply. Our exploration of the artwork will be guided by questions and information provided by Tanya Scott, the Curator of Education for the University Galleries. This special work of art will then become our inspiration for our project today, that you will be creating on your own, but we will create together in a virtual art making session guided by me. So this is the first of 2 Art Around You sessions that we will be having this May. The second will be at the end of May. Today we will be making a found object aluminum moon. This is inspired by Lisa Oppenheim's lunograms that we will see in the exhibit later. So this is an example of what we will be making today. Pretty cool. We will obviously get a lot more in depth with how to make this, but it's what we'll be making. And the cool thing about this project and the other Art Around You session will be that you can make these with things that hopefully you have lying around the house, so you don't have to go anywhere. There is a description of, or in the description for this video, there is a list of supplies that you will need for this project. And yeah, they should be things you have lying around. So let's get started with a trip to the University Galleries and take a look at an art exhibit inspired by the mysteries of outer space. And this is called An Infinite and Omnivorous Sky. So to begin your tour, you will need to visit this link, and it will take you to the University Galleries webpage, and it is a full video tour of the entire exhibit. Feel free to pause the video and take your time looking at the amazing art exhibit. It's one of my favorites from this year. And there is more information and up-close images if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, the same page that the video is on. So you can see all the artworks up close, see who it's by, and a little more information about that. As you take your tour, see if you can find Lisa Oppenheim's lunograms. They look very similar to the artwork we're going to be making, and we'll be discussing those later. There are 2 pictures of the moon, so you see if you can find those on your way. We'll be discussing a couple other works from the exhibit as well as we start making, but please enjoy the tour, and when you're done with your tour, come on back to this video and we'll discuss it. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your tour and your trip to our outer space. Did you get a good look at Lisa Oppenheim's lunograms? Those are one of my favorite pieces from this exhibit for sure. Let's talk about this artwork a little bit before we dive into making our own, basically, lunograms. So feel free to pause this video as we go along and discuss these questions amongst yourselves. I won't really dive too deep into the questions because I want you to form your own opinions, but I will present them to you and let you discuss. So what do you see in these 2 works? How are they alike? How are they different? What do you think the significance of these images is? Do you think that the artist chose the moon as her subject on purpose? How do you think the artist created these images? These are actually 2 images from a series that Oppenheim created using the earliest known photographs of the moon from the 1800s. Oppenheim did not take these pictures of the moon herself. She instead got permission to use the original negatives to create these images. Using light-sensitive paper, she exposed the copies of the original negatives to the light of the moon. So if you guys know anything about developing photos, You guys ever heard of a dark room? So photos are exposed to a certain type of light, which develops them. So instead of using typical photo developing techniques, Oppenheim used the light of the moon. I think that it gives it the images kind of that almost an eerie outer space vibe for sure. So why do you think Oppenheim chose to recreate existing images of the moon using the light of the moon? Why didn't she just take a picture of the moon herself? Have you ever used existing images or objects to create artwork? We will be using some of those later today. So I hope you enjoyed our discussion. Now we're going to move on to creating our own homemade version of some lunograms. All right, everyone. So now we're going to be creating our own artwork inspired by Lisa Oppenheim's lunograms. So we're going to be using supplies that you should find around your house somewhere, so you don't have to leave. The list of supplies is in the description of this video, and yeah, so let's get started. So this is a finished example. Obviously yours is not going to look exactly like mine, but this is just some inspiration. So we're going to be using really simple supplies, and in the end everyone's will look a little different, but that's the beauty of making artwork. So let's get started. I will list off all of the supplies. So what you will need to start, move these out of the way, is a black sheet of paper. I'm using 8.5 by 11. You can really use any size. It doesn't have to be black paper. It can be any dark colored paper like dark blue, purple, dark pink, really anything. This is going to be our sky. So whatever sky color you want is fine, as long as white paint or white crayon or white something will show up in the background as stars. So you'll need a sheet of black paper, and then you will need a bowl or round object to trace. So I'm using this bowl. You want to find something that fits nicely on your paper, whatever size paper you have. I'm using this big bowl that I have at home. You want it to fit nicely in the paper without going off the edges, and you don't want it to be too small, like something like this would be obviously too tiny. Something like this. This is like a furniture slider. This is a little on the small side. You want a bigger space to work with. So you need paper, you need a bowl, you need a pencil. This will be for tracing. You'll need aluminum foil. I'm using heavy duty aluminum foil. It does not matter how strong your foil is. You'll only need one sheet. It needs to be as big as the piece of paper. Then one of the most important parts you will need are found circular objects. So coins, key rings, lid rings. This is like a furniture slider pad. I found one of my dad's old Hot Wheels tabs from his collection. Coins, found a little key ring. This is like a little pin. This is, I don't even know what this is. So any round object that will eventually become our craters of our moon. So you want a few different sizes, different textures. Like this one kind of dips down. There's no center. This one will be raised later. So find a bunch of different round things. So this is where the using found objects or things that already exist come into play, just like Lisa Oppenheim used in her lunogram. So she used a pre-existing photo and just mixed it up in a different way to create artwork. So we're using things that we find around our house to create artwork. Okay, what you'll also need, and this is optional, so if you don't have this stuff, no big deal. This will be for later when we create our sky background. So you need something white. So you can use white colored pencil, white oil pastel, white crayon. You can use paint. I'm going to be using liquid Whiteout, that's my favorite. It dries quickly, it's bright, so you can use that. If you're using paint, you will need a paintbrush of some kind, or you could use your finger or the end of a pencil, really anything. You're just going to be making basically white dots. So that is an optional step if you don't have this stuff at home, but it does add a lot and gives it that space feel later on. Okay, so optional, but cool. You also need glue. So I'm going to be using liquid glue and a brush if you have one lying around. You can also use your finger to spread the glue. Found this works the best. Glue stick works fine too. You could use hot glue. Hot glue could be kind of cool if you put different designs behind it, because it will show when you put the foil down. So that could be a cool option as well, but I'm going to be using just liquid glue. You also need scissors. So this is all the stuff you need. Hopefully you have that lying around somewhere in your house, and let's get started. So let me clear all this stuff out of the way now. I'm going to start with my black piece of paper and my bowl. So what I'm going to do is actually kind of figure out where I'm going to be putting my moon later. So this bowl size will be what you trace on the aluminum foil as well later on. So take your pencil and trace on your black or dark paper around your bowl or whatever circular object you are tracing. So this will be for later when we add a glow around our moon. This is to help us figure out where that's going to go. So we can set that aside for now. What we're going to need now is foil. So grab a sheet of foil, make sure it's enough for your bowl to fit on. So that's plenty. You want to use the matte side. So there's a shiny side of foil and kind of a dull matte side. You want the matte side. So I think this will give us that kind of eerie, shiny, metallic vibe that Lisa Oppenheim's lunograms had. Okay, so you're going to put your bowl on top of that. And where'd my pencil go? Okay, here it is. You're going to trace that gently. You don't want to press too hard, otherwise you'll cut your foil. Gently. Then with your scissors, you are going to cut that out. You want to be gentle with your foil and try to not make dents or anything in it as you're cutting and handling it. So that'll be important that it's as smooth as possible for later. With your extra foil, maybe make like a little sculpture of some kind. I don't know, make a little astronaut for your moon. Okay, my guy has no legs, but that's okay. The heavy duty foil is a little hard to shape. You can cut foil too quite nicely. I'll make some legs for him. Ta-da! Here's my little spaceman. So I have a little, oops, some of his leg fell off. So here's our little space guy for later. Okay, totally optional, obviously. Okay, so now we have our moon. Now comes the fun part. You're gonna wanna try to find circular objects around your house. So, like I said, I found like the ring from a lid, furniture slider, coins work great, key rings work really well. I don't even know what this is. It's some piece from something I'm sure it needs, but I do not have that on there. Found this cool Hot Wheels tab from my dad's Hot Wheels collection. And yeah, you want to try to avoid really tall stuff. Like this is the lid that went with this. This would be a little too tall. It might cut your foil. So you want flat-ish round things, nothing too tall. Oh, I could use, no, that's probably not a good idea. I was gonna say I could use one of my lens covers, but that's probably not a good idea. Anyway, so you want to find those, and you can bring back your black paper that you drew a circle on, kind of as a guide for where you're going to put these. So basically you want it to be kind of random. Try to mix up where you place them. You don't want them too close to the edge. I guess you could. It would be like craters going off. that's your preference. Kind of arrange them around. Having this ring around the moon is kind of helpful for this. So yeah, I like that placement. So what you're going to do now is double check that you're using the matte side up. Okay, you don't want the shiny side. You're going to place that gently on top of your objects. So what you're going to do now is lightly kind of press and rub the objects underneath your foil. And what should happen is it's going to leave little indents on the foil. You don't want to rub too hard because you don't want to rip holes. So you want to kind of keep your foil loose as you're working. Later on you can kind of smooth down the background when we glue it. Right now you're just trying to get some indents or craters in your moon. So our moon has a lot of craters. I really like hollow objects for this. It really creates a really strong crater. There's my coins. There's one of my key rings here. Once again, it's making a really strong crater. There's my little furniture slider thing, I think. There's my little pin. So kind of work on that. You can kind of squish down the background. Work on that until you're happy with your craters. So I'm going to gently lift that away, slide my objects away, and now you have your moon. So we're not going to attach it quite yet. If you don't have supplies to create stars, you could just attach that on there and be done. That looks great too. But if you do have the correct supplies, what we're going to do first is create our background, then attach the moon. So let's go back to my finished one. What we're going to do first is create kind of a glow around our moon, just to make it stand out a little more, and at the same time blend in with our background. Then we're going to go back and create stars. So let's start with the glow around the moon. So the best way to do that is with either white colored pencil, oil pastel, or crayon. So I'm going to start with white colored pencil and go back in with my oil pastel just to brighten it a little bit. But when you are doing this, you're going to do some shading. So when you're shading with a colored pencil, the way you control how light or how dark the color is by the pressure of your pencil. So if you want it darker, you press harder. If you want it lighter, you press lighter. So the key to making gradual kind of glowy shading is going from dark to light. So starting by pressing hard and then lightening your pressure as you go out. So I'm going to use that circle that we drew earlier kind of as a guide. I'm going to go a little bit inside of it. I'm just going to work in little sections at a time. So what I'm doing is with my colored pencil, I'm pressing a little harder close to the circle and then lightening my pressure to almost hardly pressing at all as I go out. And it's going to give it that little glow. Another tip for nice shading is the direction of your pencil. Does it look like I'm scribbling all over, or am I keeping the same direction? I'm keeping the same direction. That really helps with nice smooth shading. So I'm going to do that all around my circle in little sections. I'm just rotating my paper so I can keep my hand at a comfortable angle. So I'm pressing hard. As I go to the edge, I'm lightening my pressure, hardly pressing at all as I get to the edge. Might have to go back and kind of color on top to get rid of some seams. Okay. Went all the way around the moon, I mean. So now I'm going to go back with my white pastel. A white crayon will work great for that too. And I'm just going to, once again, very lightly, especially with oil pastel, if you have any, it's very strong. But I'm going to kind of go back, especially over the parts that I want a little brighter. So I'm going to do that closest to the edge of the circle. I'm barely pressing at all. Something else that would work great for this that I just thought of is chalk. So if you have sidewalk chalk or regular old white chalk, this would work great for that too. And you could even smear it out with your finger if you wanted. You can smear oil pastels too, but we're just going to keep it like this. Going all the way around. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So now when we glue this on later, it'll look like our moon has a nice little glow around it. So what we're going to do next is add some stars to the back. So like I said, you can really use anything for this. If you're feeling like getting a little messy, you can use white paint and a toothbrush or like a scrub brush, and you can flick the paint on there. If you want a little more controlled, you can use just colored pencil, you can use your pastel, you can use white crayon. I'm going to actually use liquid whiteout because I really like how that looks. The brush is already in there, it dries quickly, and I just like to use it. So I'm going to use liquid whiteout. What I'm going to do is literally just go around and make little dots. So usually whiteout brushes are kind of odd shapes, they're like a wedge. So I'm using like the corner of it. I'm trying to put some stars kind of in clusters together, from different sizes. Going around, you can add as many as you want. You can add just a few, you can add none, whatever you feel. I'm going to take it one step further and add some more stars with my colored pencil, so it looks as though there's some stars that are not quite as bright and they're farther away. So I'm just going to add some little dots around. You can also add some little twinkling stars, so you can do that by just making a plus sign. Super easy. You can even add some little, like an X on top of your plus sign to make it kind of twinkly, like an asterisk. So my background is complete. Now I can add my moon. So I recommend liquid glue for this. You can use glue stick as well, or hot glue. Hot glue could be interesting because it will show the indents of it underneath, which might add some more texture to your moon. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a nice amount, like a swirl. And with my brush, I'm going to spread that all over inside of my circle. I'm going a little bit on top of my glow so that in case my moon goes on top of that a little bit, it will be glued down. So spreading that around, you can use your finger too. Okay, so make sure that glue is spread all around the circle. Adding a little more. You want to make sure it's all the way to the edge, kind of on top of your glow. Okay, so now you're going to take your moon and you're going to very gently press it onto your background. So you want to make sure as you are adding this to your background, you're not squishing the whole thing. You want to gently rub around the craters that you made. So you want to be really gentle when you add this. Now's your time to kind of smooth out all the wrinkles, make it look how you would like. Like I said, make sure you're not squishing your craters. This one got lost a little bit. I'm gonna see if I can add this back in real quick. Yeah, and if you lose one of your craters, just quickly add the object underneath it and rub it gently, just like how I did. No big deal. Okay. There we go. So there is your finished faux lunagram, just like Lisa Oppenheim's artwork. So what you can do with this is, obviously, you can just display it as is. It's beautiful as it is. If you make multiples, so this was my example from earlier, you can make it like a series. Maybe you can make this the phases of the moon. Maybe you could cut the different phases of the moons out and make a series. That'd be really cool looking. You could even frame this. You could write a cute quote on the background, like "love you to the moon and back" or something like that, and give it to somebody you love. There's lots of different options you have with your artwork now. So thank you for joining us for this session of Art Around You, and we will be having a second session at the end of May. So please join us for that. We'll be looking at the same art exhibit, and we'll be making artwork based on another artist that you may have seen, and we'll be creating bubble print galaxies. So that will be really fun. So please join us next time. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.